Okay, we have a lot to break down today. So, did Joe Gorga tip off the feds and send his sister to prison? Okay, that seems to be the rumor on the rumor mill that's been going around. So, Page Six hosted a live taping of Virtual Reality, the podcast. Shout out to my boy Evan Reel, who hosted and who hosts Page Six's Virtual Reality podcast. So they had an event at City Winery in NYC, which, by the way, shout out, I'm going to be doing a show at City Winery in NYC on July 26th with the Bra Bros and some very special guests. So get your tickets at nofilterlive.com. Nofilterlive.com. I will be there, City Winery, July 26th. But so they hosted a show. And in the show, they had Ramona Singer and Avery, who shaded Kristen Takeman. And then they also had Caroline Manzo and her daughter, Lauren Manzo. And so at the show, I guess they asked about Teresa and, like, you know, where she stands with Teresa, right? And so Caroline said that she was always very supportive of Teresa. You know, she was there to hold her hand amid all of the legal drama, and that she, was there for her even when she had to go to jail. And then that's when Lauren Manzo, her daughter, chimes in because it was like a mother-daughter celebrate or mother-daughter show. And so Lauren chimes in and she's like, yeah, and she also didn't call the feds, which Teresa has insinuated in the past. And so Caroline then responded, and I know who did, and I will never say it. She said, I will never, ever say it. And then she continued by saying, P.S. I was there, but I will never say who it was. I saw what was going down. I grabbed my kids. I took the fall. It's not even about being a rat. There's a thing called collateral damage. So when you say something, who is it going to hurt? Who is it going to hurt by saying this truth? And she said, I could never do that. She said, I took the blame to protect people that didn't deserve the collateral damage of the fallout, since once it comes out who it was. So she didn't say who it actually was, and she definitely did not say that it was Joe Gorga that tipped off the feds, which is interesting because I keep seeing it go around, like on Twitter, like Caroline Manzo confirms that Joe Gorga is the one that tipped off the feds, because there's this rumor that's going around that Lauren references on stage, right? Because she says something about how she's like, well, I guess it gets talked about at the reunion. I guess we'll have to wait and see at the reunion. And so she references that rumor that comes up at the reunion. And the rumor that Teresa claims she heard from Jacqueline Larita. So Teresa, I guess, brings this up at the reunion, and she claims that she heard it from Jacqueline. So it's apparently that this person that worked with the feds is allegedly a former business partner of Joe Giudice's, and he helped them build the case against Joe and Teresa. And so that's the rumor that is circulating. It's not an accusation that I'm making. I'm just saying that's what's floating around, is that it was this former business partner that worked with the feds to help lock up Joe and Teresa. And I heard that Teresa also accuses Joe Gorga of being the one that reported Joe Giudice to the IRS for not paying his taxes, but that's separate. Or I guess it was they were saying that it was his secretary that reported Joe Giudice to the IRS. So it makes it seem like Joe had the IRS tipped off, and as a result of that, of him telling the IRS that Giudice isn't paying his taxes, that this kind of sent everything in motion, or at least that seems to be like what is being alluded to with this rumor. So I think that this is all getting tangled up as Joe being the one that called the feds and tipped off the feds because he was trying to send Joe Giudice to prison. But I think that's kind of like a little cuckoo crazy to think that he would try to lock up Joe Giudice and his sister. Like, do we really think that he would want to send Joe or Teresa? Probably, I'm assuming, if this were true, which I don't think I believe is true. Why would he try? Like, this would affect his nieces. This would affect Teresa. Like, I don't think he was trying to get Joe sent to prison. I don't think he was trying to work or cooperate with the feds. I don't even know if I believe that he had his secretary tip off the IRS. In recent seasons, Joe Gorga has been very angry at Joe Giudice for getting Teresa into this mess. So why would there be so much anger directed at Juicy Joe if he had a hand in things? Like, that to me just doesn't actually make any sense. Also, why is there so much focus on like who tipped off the feds? Like, to me, that's the crazy cuckoo parties. Everyone's like, who tipped off the feds? Who sent Teresa to prison? I'll tell you who sent Teresa to prison. Teresa and Joe Giudice. That's the bottom line. Joe Giudice and Teresa broke the law. They committed federal crimes. When you commit a federal crime, guess what? You get sent to federal prison. They actively took part in criminal behavior. They flashed their money on national television, all while falsely filing for bankruptcy. And guess what? When that happens, when you do that and you get caught, you go to prison. Don't pass go. Clink, clink. That's just how life goes. That's how the law works. You break it, there are consequences. In this case, the consequences are going to prison. That's what happens. That's where the attention should be, is on Joe and Teresa for, guess what? Breaking the law. That's what they did. They broke the law. And the only people that fall for that are Joe and Teresa. Joe Giudice and Teresa Giudice, the ones that actually had to serve their time. So it's not because anybody ratted them out, but it's because they broke the law. And that seems to be the thing that like people have a hard time getting through, like their thick skull, is that the only people at fault here are Juicy Joe and Teresa. And guess what? They served their time. They paid their dues. They've moved on. So why the hell do we all still care about it? Like, why are we still trying to crack the code on who turned them in or who worked with the feds? I thought it was common knowledge at this point that it was the business partner that was the one that worked with the feds. I didn't realize that people still thought that like Caroline or Jacqueline or Joe Gorga were the ones that had a hand in all of this. Because like, even if this were true, right? Like, let's play devil's advocate. Even if this were true about Joe Gorga, why would Teresa then try so hard to make things nice with him? Why would she try to make up with him? Why would she still want him at her wedding so badly if he was such an evil, terrible person that wanted to send his sister or send her husband to prison? But if we look back at the past couple of seasons, Teresa's anger was always directed at Joe Giudice for going to prison, not at her brother. She's never directed her anger at her brother for going to prison. It was always directed at Joe. Her husband, Joe. He's the one that put them in this position, and unfortunately, this is just where we ended up. This is where she ended up. This is how the cards fell. So I think we need to stop with this cuckoo crazy BS about other people being responsible for why Teresa ended up in prison, ended up locked behind bars, because her family put her there. Her own husband put her there. She and her husband put themselves in that position. I don't think Teresa believes the rumor, to be honest. Yes, she probably uses it at the reunion and tries to weaponize it against Joe and Melissa, but I think she just wants there to be a reason as to why she's upset with Joe and Melissa, to deflect from her own responsibility for why their relationship has fallen apart. Rather than be like, I contributed to why our relationship isn't good, I'm just going to throw more at Joe and say that Joe Gorga, Joey's the one that put me in this position. And that's why I'm mad at him, because of the pizza ovens and because of this and because of, and because his wife cheats on him with guys in the back seats of cars. So I can't. It's just, to me, the whole thing is wild. And the fact that we're still talking about this, or the fact that we're still trying to put blame on somebody else. No. Caroline did not confirm that it was Joe Gorga. Caroline did not say that it was Joe Gorga. She does say that she was in the room when it happened. And so I think maybe she was around, because I think she also kind of knew the business partner or people around the business partner. Like, listen, the people on the show are not the only people in their lives and are not the only people that were involved or that knew what was going on. So it's possible that when she says, I was in the room and I was there, the only people in her life are not Joe Gorga and Melissa. Other people do exist, and other people are part of the equation, just like this business partner.